Hello and welcome to Tuesday DJ Gig Tips on a Friday. Brought to you by Vibo, the music planning app. And I guess we could think of this video as a few days late, or we could think of this video as a few days early. It's really up to you. But the truth is, we're actually a few days late. So, anyway, when DJs turn on the computer and look on social media or YouTube, I think the thing that most are interested in more than anything else is equipment or gear or kit or whatever you call it in the part of the world that you live in. So I thought I'd do a video dedicated to that. And I want to talk about how to select equipment like a pro. Actually, the truth is, it's how to select equipment like I do it. And I know this is insinuating that I'm the pro here. And I guess technically I am. I mean, I get paid for what I do, and the definition of a professional is someone who does it for money, opposed to somebody who does it for fun, like, I don't know, or as a hobby, or as an amateur, like an Olympian kind of thing. So this is not gospel. This is not the end-all, be-all. This is just my thought process. And I thought I'd share it with you. And I think it would serve a lot of you well to consider some of the steps that I take in the order that I take them in before making your purchasing decisions. So what I do is first try to establish, what specifically do I want to do with this equipment? What are my goals? Do I want to do wedding receptions of 150 to 200 people? Do I want to do school dances of up to 800 kids? What's my goal here ultimately? After that, I explore options. I look around and see what would achieve my goal. What type of speakers are available to do 150 person wedding receptions? What type of lighting is available to do the school dances I want to do? Those kind of things. Look at all of the options. Check out this speaker, and that speaker, and that speaker, and this controller, and that controller, and that controller. Find out what their benefits are. Find out what they're capable of. Find out if they're a good fit for what you're trying to do. And I'm talking about explore the high dollar options and the low dollar options. Look at every option you can find. And then establish your budget. What a lot of people do is they will think of an arbitrary number that they are willing to spend on, let's say, just speakers, for instance. And then they'll go out and they'll find a speaker that costs that kind of money, and they'll buy it. But what they're not considering is what that speaker is capable of. They're not considering if it's too much for an event. And this happens a lot. It happens a lot in the car world. There are people who build these hot rods. I'm involved in all these Mustang groups, and there are people out there who have been driving around in Toyota Celicas their whole life. All of a sudden they get an old Mustang and they want to build a 600 horsepower engine for it. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? On paper, I'm sure it looks good and it sounds cool, but how do you plan on using the car? Is this a daily driver, or are you going to the drag strip? And do you have any idea what that kind of horsepower feels like? Do you even understand what half of that horsepower feels like, let alone 600 horsepower? It's the same thing with something like speakers. Let's say you're looking at speakers that are 136 decibels. By the way, that's really, really, really a lot of sound. And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, it's a lot, but if I get these speakers, I can still use them at 100-person wedding receptions because I can turn them down. It doesn't work that way. It just unfortunately doesn't always work that way. You need to find speakers or lighting or any kind of equipment that's a good fit for the types of events that you want to do. Yeah, headroom's nice. It's nice to have a little more, but to have an excessive amount of more is ill-advised. It just is. And to make the car analogy, look at all the Hellcats and the cool GT Mustangs that are in the junkyard. There's a reason for that. People with more money than brains have been buying these things and wrecking them because they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Same thing with speakers. Not that you're going to wreck your speakers, but you're just going to blow people's heads off if you bring these giant speakers into a small event. Same thing goes Where if you get a low powered speaker that might be fine for 150 people, and you try to bring it to a school dance of 400 and wonder why there's not enough sound, and wonder why you're not getting the response that you wanted to get from the kids. It's all stuff you have to consider. You also have to think about how you're going to haul this stuff around. That's what I do. I have vehicles. I know how big they are. I can't buy stuff that's too big to fit in those vehicles, because otherwise I have to buy a bigger vehicle, and I don't want to do that. I know people who have these big, what are they, Dodge Sprints and Ford Transits that they haul all of this equipment around in. You look inside these things. I just saw one the other day. I saw a picture. The thing was probably 3/4 of the way empty. They didn't need that much vehicle for the amount of equipment that they had. On the other hand, somebody who has a Toyota Celica, maybe you don't want to buy dual 18-inch subwoofers. Maybe that's not going to fit in your vehicle. So if you're not willing to buy a bigger vehicle, maybe you need to select equipment that fits in the vehicle you have. That's what most people do. It's the most economical thing to do ultimately, even if it means stepping up on the equipment and getting something that maybe costs more money than the budget option. And when you consider vehicle prices, sometimes it's a savings to go premium opposed to getting the big thing that fits in your vehicle. It works that way sometimes. Also, storage. Do you have somewhere to put this stuff? If you're in an apartment somewhere, do you have a storage facility? Or do you have some kind of secure vehicle that you can lock, which isn't really advisable? If you've got to haul this stuff up and downstairs, you've got to consider stuff that you can actually pick up and haul. If you're disabled like myself, you have to select equipment that you can handle by yourself. Assuming that I'd always have a roadie with me, which I normally don't, you've got to get equipment that you can physically handle. You got to have a plan for this stuff. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about is operating this equipment efficiently. Knowing how to use the gear that you have. Even if you don't have premium stuff, it's important to understand how this stuff works and what your mixer settings are going to be that are going to make this sound as good as it possibly can, what your DSP settings and your speakers are going to be, how to place the lighting that you have around the room for the best effect. All of these things. There are so many people out there who have no idea how to operate the equipment that they have. They're excited about the equipment they have, but they have no idea how to properly use it and how audio chains work. Now, a lot of people don't want to admit that they have no idea how to use their equipment. And that's an ego thing. I'm telling you right now that it's okay if you don't know how to use the equipment that you have. And it's okay if you have questions. And I'm here to help you. If you have a question about how to set up anything, let me know. If I can help, I'll help. There's some things I don't know a lot about, or I'm not real good at, like maybe DMX perhaps. But, audio stuff, I'm pretty good at that. If you need some help and some guidance with that, let me know. Don't be ashamed. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to look down on you. What I do look down on is people who say they know how to set their stuff up and have absolutely no clue. It's better to admit that you don't know something and look for help and get the right answer than it is to pretend you know something and just keep doing it wrong, in my opinion. So, yeah, if you've got any questions on your equipment, please let me know, because I'm here to help. I want us all to do better. And again, this doesn't matter if you have budget equipment or you have the best equipment. Either way, there's a way to set this stuff up to make it sound as good as it possibly can. And ultimately, I think that's our goal, isn't it? It's my goal anyway. I'll turn this camera off. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for a gig tip coming up next week. I've got a lot of stuff going on in the next few weeks. So I'm going to do my best to keep getting these tips out. I'll get more videos on what I got going on, give you some explanations of what I got cooking this month, I guess. But in the meantime, I'm going to have a nice relaxing afternoon, because that's what I can do today. That's it. Take care of yourselves. I appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for the thumbs ups and the comments and all that stuff. And again, leave your questions down below. Practice and enjoy.